everyone to another edition of the Cultures for Health podcast, where we discuss all things related to fermentation. We believe that the best fermented foods and beverages are DIY, and we are here to supply you with the tools you need to get started, guidance through the process, and to help you achieve your fermentation goals. I am Wendy, your host for today, and in today's episode, we're going to be talking all about a traditional probiotic beverage known as Milk Kefir. If you're anything like me, not long ago, before I began working at Cultures for Health, I didn't know much about Milk Kefir. So whether you're like I once was and are just hearing about Milk Kefir for the first time, or you have been fermenting foods at home for years and are just starting to explore the probiotic benefits of Milk Kefir, I've compiled some information that I hope will help you better understand this unique beverage. I'm going to be explaining what Milk Kefir is, its many renowned health properties, what it tastes like, its long history, how to make it at home, and last but definitely not least, a few great ways to consume Milk Kefir, because you don't just have to drink it. Let's get started. So, what exactly is Milk Kefir? Milk Kefir is a fermented drink. It is traditionally made using cow's milk or goat's milk. Don't confuse Milk Kefir with the dairy-free and vegan-friendly water kefir, which also has amazing benefits and is also one of our popular offerings here at Cultures for Health, but is not what we'll be discussing today. Milk Kefir is made by pouring milk over kefir grains and being left to sit in room temperature. After about 24 hours, the microorganisms inside the kefir grains multiply and ferment the sugars in the milk, which prevents the milk from spoiling. FYI, when I say kefir grains, I'm not talking about cereal grains like wheat, barley, oats, or your favorite breakfast cereal, but rather kefir grains are grain-like colonies of yeast and lactic acid bacteria. Some say they resemble a cauliflower in appearance. Technically, milk kefir grains are a form of SCOBY, which if you happen to have listened to my last podcast with Jen all about fermenting kombucha, you'd then already know that SCOBY, S-C-O-B-Y, stands for a symbiotic culture of bacteria and yeast. This process of pouring milk over kefir grains, i.e. SCOBYs, and letting it sit turns the milk into the probiotic powerhouse known as Milk Kefir, which is then strained to separate it from the kefir grains and is ready to drink. Down the hatch. Now let's talk about Milk Kefir's health properties. Milk Kefir is renowned to be high in nutrients and probiotics, which, as you know, is very beneficial for digestion and gut health. If you thought yogurt was good for your gut, here is a comparison. Yogurt has between 2 to 7 bacteria, whereas Milk Kefir can have up to 60 to 70 different bacteria and yeasts that can actually colonize the gut. Yogurt is great for short-term probiotic needs, but kefir is king when it comes to gut health. Kefir is also a great source of calcium and vitamin K2, which help keep your bones healthy, and high in amino acids, B vitamins, and folic acid. And there's more. Other benefits known to kefir include lower blood pressure and cholesterol. It boosts your immune system, reduces asthma and allergies, has amazing antibacterial properties, and may even combat cancer. Tryptophan, one of the essential amino acids abundant in kefir, is well known for its relaxing effect on the nervous system. Because kefir also offers an abundance of calcium and magnesium, which are important minerals for a healthy nervous system, kefir in the diet can have a particularly profound calming effect on the nerves. Kefir's ample supply of phosphorus, the second most abundant mineral in our bodies, helps utilize carbohydrates, fats, and proteins for cell growth, maintenance, and energy. Truly, the benefits of consuming kefir regularly in the diet are numerous, and I could go on and on. But let's move on to another important subject regarding Milk Kefir. No matter how healthy a product may be for us, it's still important to taste good going down, right? So what exactly does kefir taste like? Well, I do want to point out that the taste of kefir can vary greatly depending on the type of milk used and the length of time it is cultured. Well-fermented kefir can have a strong, sour, or tart taste and can even be a bit carbonated. Shorter fermentation could yield a more mild flavor. Some people even choose to ferment milk kefir a second time to enhance the flavor. Milk kefir can also have a touch of yeast flavor due to the beneficial yeast present in the culture. The grain's lactic acid bacteria turn the milk's lactose into lactic acid. Say that 3 times fast. So kefir tastes sour like yogurt, but with a thinner consistency. And by the way, while yogurt is almost always eaten with a spoon, milk kefir is usually consumed as a cultured dairy drink. Although I'll provide even more ways to eat kefir later on in this podcast, so stay tuned. For those of you who may prefer a different taste or are craving something sweet, consider flavoring the kefir or turning it into a scrumptious dessert by blending in fresh or frozen fruit, flavor extracts such as vanilla, sweeteners such as honey, maple syrup, stevia, and more. A little tidbit: if you haven't tried kefir yet, you could always purchase it at the grocery store first to give it a try, but many kefir connoisseurs swear only by homemade, saying that store-bought version doesn't compare. In fact, some say they taste like 2 completely different products, which we're also going to touch on more later on, so just keep that in mind if you do choose to try the grocery store product first. So, you may be wondering how milk kefir got started and where does milk kefir come from? Well, humans have been making and drinking kefir for nearly 2,000 years, actually, and it has long been considered a powerful health food. It is believed to have originated and been produced in ancient times by nomadic shepherds in the Balkans, where they discovered that fresh milk carried in leather pouches would occasionally ferment into an effervescent beverage. Fun fact: the name kefir is derived from the Turkish word keyif, which means feeling good after eating. And that's pretty cool if you ask me. There was a time when milk kefir was a closely guarded secret. Milk kefir was even referred to as the grains of the prophet, as Muhammad is said to have taught the people how to make kefir. In fact, it was kept such a secret because the people believed that the benefits of kefir would somehow be diminished or lose their magic strength if the secrets of making kefir were shared outside of their region. Therefore, for most of recorded history, kefir was scarcely known outside the Caucasus Mountains, although Marco Polo mentioned it in recounting his travels. Because of this, it wasn't until the early 1900s that the keys to making kefir were finally shared, and not until the 1960s that milk kefir was introduced to the Western world. Kefir continues to be popular in Russia, Southwestern Asia, and Eastern and Northern Europe, and has recently gained popularity in the United States. Now let's talk about making milk kefir at home. It's easy to do and doesn't require any specialized equipment. Just a glass jar, a non-metal stirring utensil, a breathable cover, and a rubber band to secure the cover, and finally a fine mesh plastic strainer for removing the kefir grains from the finished kefir. If you don't yet have these items lying around the home, we conveniently have everything you need to get started making kefir at our website, culturesforhealth.com. Kefir generally takes 12 to 24 hours to form. The exact amount of time will vary depending on environmental factors, the most important of which is temperature, which is often the case when it comes to fermentation. For example, cold temperatures slow the fermentation process, and it can be all but stopped by placing the grains in milk in the refrigerator, whereas heat speeds the process. So kefir will form more quickly in a warm area, but also will be more likely to overculture, so be careful. You may be wondering what the benefits are to making milk kefir at home instead of simply, buying it at the store. I mean, why go through all the trouble, right? Well, like most things in life, a good thing just cannot be packaged or processed. The quality or essence of the food is often lost or at least diminished when creating something safe and with a shelf life. Commercial kefir found in stores is limited by the bottling process. Companies need to suppress or halt yeast fermentation and culturing in order to prevent continued carbonation, or the bottles could explode. Clean up on aisle 10, please. This process leaves you with commercial kefir, which, while still good, typically has mild and or suppressed culture and less varieties of bacteria and yeast. Therefore, you are not getting the full spectrum at the full potency that homemade kefir with kefir grains will give you. For example, some brands advertise 10 strains. Genuine kefir has upwards of 40 to 60 strains. Also, you may notice that most store-bought kefir is not carbonated. While a lot of people don't care much if their kefir is carbonated or not, you do have the option to make your homemade kefir nice and fizzy, which, is a unique treat. Another thing to keep in mind when it comes to homemade versus store-bought, you know what is going in it. So forget about worrying about what a company used to preserve, thicken, or flavor it with, which can be quite the ordeal when on a special diet or if you have any allergies. No gargum or yellow number 5 involved here. Nope, at home it's just milk. And what about the cost? Well, the cost you will be saving is enormous. Commercial kefir is pricey, so taking the time to learn how to make your own beverages at home will save you a bundle in the long run. Let's say you were to go through 2 or 3 store-bought 32-ounce kefir bottles a week. That would total between approximately $415 to $622 a year. The cost of the milk needed to make kefir with grains at home will cost you far less, coming out to only around $72 to $108 a year for this same amount. Packet kits are a little more expensive, but still substantially cheaper than store-bought kefir. They will cost you about $99 to $135 a year for this same amount. That is a substantial savings of around 84%. You could even invest in some exotic and fun flavorings to add to your kefir and still easily come out ahead. All right, so you've made your milk kefir, and now you may be wondering, well, what do I do with it? How do I eat it? If you're initially considering kefir as a breakfast food, you would be correct. It is best known for that for sure. In fact, many claim that a cold glass of this smooth and creamy drink is the best way to start a day. Drinking kefir is definitely one of the most common and simple ways to eat kefir, but there are other ways to enjoy it as well. For example, you could pour it over your cereal like you do milk. Or it could be the perfect protein and vitamin-filled base of any smoothie recipe. And it's a more probiotically potent option than yogurt in your granola bowl. Kefir is a highly versatile ingredient actually, and would be great in things like sauces, salad dressings, dips, and baked goods. Last but definitely not least, you could even turn milk kefir into a tasty and probiotic ice cream treat. Yum. So with that, I want to thank you so much for joining us for another episode of the Cultures for Health podcast. I hope that I have managed to teach you a lot of new things about milk kefir, and most importantly, that I've turned you on to giving it a try for yourself. If that is the case, then be sure to visit our website at culturesforhealth.com very soon. There you will find milk kefir grains, starter kits, and equipment for purchases, as well as articles, quick tips, and recipes to get you started on your fermentation journey. Once again, I am Wendy, your host for today. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time.